Welcome to LMP Talks Wrestling. How has 2020 been treating you all out there? Did you watch New Beginning from New Japan? Are you ready for Valentine's Day? We know one wrestler over on SmackDown who's ready, but whatever you're up to this month, we're almost halfway through. We're now on the road to Super Showdown over in WWE territory, and AEW's Revolution is just 2 days after the event. If you're new to the podcast, welcome and thank you for taking the time to tune in. While you're tuning in, if you want to hear your voice on here, just send me a PM, DM on or anything like that on any of my social media, and we'll set it up. I'd love to hear your opinions. But as everyone knows, I always bring a guest on the chat to talk. But this week I have two special guests. I'm happy to announce Queen and Mort from DYWT B podcast. How's it going tonight, guys?
So good. How are you?
I'm doing all right tonight. I'm actually pretty excited to talk to you guys.
I'm doing good as well.
That's good to hear. So, now you guys have your own wrestling podcast, right?
Correct.
Sure do.
So, but before we dive into all that's wrestling, what do you guys cover? Like, tell everybody out there about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Well, Mort, myself, and Pops over here at DYWTSB talk Raw, we talk AEW, we do predictions and pay-per-views. We, give a little perspective that's, I think, a little bit different. We talk about things, as our name might suggest, like who wrote this stuff? Like, we want to change some things. We have some strong opinions sometimes, some more than others. I'm sure Mort will laugh and agree with that. But yeah, that's pretty much what we do. What do you think, Mort?
Definitely, and as far as SmackDown goes, I'm the SmackDown correspondent for the show. I do a solo show on Fridays.
Yes, he sure does.
Because they changed it on us.
Yes, they did. They screwed up our little schedule. So Mort, awesome trooper, watches SmackDown and he gives the Mort report. And we also have the Queen and Pops Experience, where we do watch-alongs every Sunday. And we have a whole little family over here at DYWTSB. Regular Guy Wrestle Talk, All This Beef. And our newest acquisition, which is very exciting for us, to have Mr. Colin West from Synergy Pro Wrestling. He does a monthly show with us on our network. So it's pretty exciting.
There you guys go. See, that's fantastic. I love the fact that there's so many wrestling podcasts out there. Like, it's insane. Like, you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, you find all of these groups that have to talk about wrestling, and everybody pretty much has a different opinion about something. And it's amazing how so many of the fandom can agree on like a booking choice, or look at WWE, for example, or look at AEW and like, oh wow, the booking here, the booking there, it's like night and day, and all the differences, and it's amazing. It really is. 2020 is an amazing time to be a wrestling fan.
Whew. You're saying it right there.
2019 was wild, right?
2019 was wild. Thank you, Mort. You said that right on the head. And I think 2020 is going to bring us really exciting things. And, we're just happy to be a part of the podcast community and, get our voices out there. And even us friends, three best friends we talk, we don't always agree. And I love that we can do that respectfully, and we don't actually hate each other, though Pops and I do fight quite a bit.
No.
Let's share the love around.
Oh, dear. Yeah, Mort has to mediate a lot of the time. Sorry, Mort.
Round one, fight.
That's what he does.
I guess we'll start with you, Queen. As people know, when people come on the wrestling podcast, I like to ask how they became a wrestling fan, what their favorite wrestlers were, how old they were, their first opinions of the wrestling universe. So before I get to Mort, from your perspective, Queen, tell me about your origins as a wrestling fan.
Oh, man. Well, I was lucky enough to have my great-grandfather in my life until I was 21. So that was really, really cool. And he loved, as he put it, wrestling is what he called it. So, very... very funny Sicilian man, loved it. And when I was about 10 years old, he showed me The Undertaker for the very first time. And I wasn't supposed to be watching anything scary or anything that I shouldn't be watching. And he didn't really care about my mother's rules. So I got to watch it anyway. And I was very intrigued. I didn't know what was going on. And I was a little afraid at the same time, but I was super fascinated. And that was my first experience watching wrestling. And from there, I just decided I needed to know more and more and more. And I was lucky enough to grow up with one of my cousins so close by, and we're the same age, and he loved wrestling. So he had all the, wrestling buddies and the action figures, and his dad, my uncle, bought all the pay-per-views. And so luckily, I was able to watch it with them. So that's kind of how I got into it. And my guys were The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then The Rock. Those were my favorites growing up. So that's how I got in.
That's awesome.
It's not too bad.
No, that's really awesome. Like, just the fact that, your grandfather has, like, he introduced you to wrestling, and without even that introduction, who knows where you'd be right now?
100%. So shout out to him.
Definitely. Absolutely. Shout out to your grandfather. Now, what about you, Mort?
Oh, well, I can't believe I'm going to start the week off charting Queenie already. But Undertaker was the first wrestler that drew me in. My aunt and her 3 kids would always watch wrestling, and I started just over there one time close to Undertaker's debut, and he immediately drew me in. If people knew young Mort was always drawn to the quote unquote darker side of things. So something about Undertaker spoke to me, and he didn't need to be the main event, so to speak. He was just always there. And other than that, I've periodically watched it here and there. When I was growing up, I had to only watch it at my aunt's house because it wasn't allowed because wrestling's fake.
Oh God.
We're such a mark, Yeah.
Oh, but as far as my adult life, I don't think I've really missed a year.
That's pretty cool. That really is. The fact that the Undertaker's name just keeps getting like, I can't even. It's speaking of the Undertaker too. Like, I look at the Undertaker, and I've been a wrestling fan pretty much as long as the Undertaker's been around. Almost. Like, he's been in the wrestling business, at least in WWE, since '89, I think. And I got into it maybe 94, 95. So, I mean, one of these days, we're going to be just talking about how amazing The Undertaker was, not is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine a wrestling universe without him.
I totally hear that. It's very strange to think in 5-10 years when we look back, who's that guy right now that, when our future kids or our friends' kids are watching wrestling, like, who's going to be their Undertaker? I always think about that because I'm looking at the screen sometimes and I'm like, man, I need someone with that amount of charisma. I need someone with that amount of draw. And I don't know if it's different because we're older or what it is, or we're just, so strongly attached to our nostalgia that maybe it's just us. I don't know. But I think about that all the time.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I thought about that on my last podcast. I was talking to somebody about that and about all the different generations and how, like, 30 years ago, that generation of, watching like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and, all those people, it's like Brutus the Beefcake, I think it was, Jake the Snake, the classic ones from then, from that era. And they were probably always wondering, who's going to be the big star in 30 years? And now that new generation is wondering the same thing. And I even wondered that when I was a kid. And I mentioned this before, like, I would watch my Shawn Michaels and the Triple H's and the Rock and Stone Cold and all them. And I was like, who is going to replace them in 20 years? Who is going to be the next big thing? Right. And it's really, really interesting to look back when you can do that after like 20 years of something, and you look back and you're like, oh my God, the amount of change that's happened. Like, just like you said, who is going to be that charismatic to be able to draw the crowd in?
I know. It's definitely a topic of conversation, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And there's nothing like the Undertaker's entrance.
Well, it is pretty cool.
Lay it on me.
I listen, there's no better entrance music or feeling than Stone Cold. It's just, I think that theatrics is unmatched for Undertaker. No one comes close in that regard. So dramatic, and it's so, it's theatrical. I'll just use the same word because that's what I mean. But
you and I are
gonna
fight, man. Queen.
I know we're gonna fight. I know, I can feel it. But there's something about that shattering glass. It's the best entrance music of all time. It just, So that glass hits and you just know things are about to go off the rails. Nothing is going to be the same because that man was just wild. Because
Nothing
it was
beats the
just,
funeral dirge
I don't
and the
know.
smoke and the lighting.
It's theatrical and I love it. It's probably in my top 2. Definitely my
I can
top 2.
definitely I can definitely tell what you mean though about the glass breaking and that atmosphere. Like when Stone Cold's music hit, it was like, oh shit, here we go. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's here. So yeah, I mean, whenever you heard that gong too, it brought that same kind of attention thing. But yeah, I totally understand what you mean. Like when Stone Cold came out, he came out, you know, and he made sure that his presence was known. And like that's why he was so popular. That's why he was amazing. He was just The Rock and Stone Cold, those two going at it. I feel that's lightning in a bottle, and that those two characters, you can't have that same charisma again. You can try and duplicate it. You can have similar things, but that
You
time of having The Rock and Stone Cold, it's something special.
Yeah,
Sure.
you can't intentionally create that. It's either there or isn't. You can't manufacture that artificially. There
Oh,
has to be
no.
there has to be something between the two combatants that sparks.
That's a great point, Mort.
Yeah, it really is. It's a fantastic point. So getting into the wrestling product, I mean, there's New Japan, there's AEW, there's WWE. Now I know, Queen, you've caught up on New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh, sure do. Sure have.
and Mort's all caught up on SmackDown, as we've learned.
Yes,
Mhm.
he is.
And we're all caught up on AEW, except for Dark tonight. I have not watched it yet.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't had a chance to, but I definitely will be checking that out.
Yes, I told Mort right after the podcast I'll be checking out Dark because I love AEW Dark. And actually, you know what? We'll just segue right into that. What do you guys think of this AEW product? What do you think about the Dark? What do you think about the win and losses record? Queen, Morty, I'd love to hear it.
Oh boy, Mort, you want to go first on this one?
Chuck him into the wall of fire.
Yeah, I'm
Thanks,
gonna
Queen.
let you dive in, buddy.
Well, initially I liked the wins and losses thing, but it really hasn't mattered, has it? Because it was brought up by our third partner, Pops, who unfortunately isn't here tonight, that they decide, seemingly on a week-to-week basis, who the new number one contender is. Shouldn't that be going off the wins and losses strictly, and not fluttering between different wrestlers?
I think the frustration, Pops had brought up when we were talking about it last week, or 2 weeks ago. I don't know. We talk about it a lot. I feel like because it's been changing, right? Is it Chris Statlander? Is it Nyla Rose? Like what's going on? And it seems a little quick to change, and that's the nature of wins and loss records. When you win, you move up. When you don't, you either move down or stay the same, depending on what else is going on. So I think it kind of feels a little frantic. And I think also it has to do with perspective, right? Because when we get a number one contender for something, in like WWE, for example, or even in New Japan, it is a long-term storyline. It is, well, shorter for WWE, but New Japan is a little longer, right?
Yes, it is.
When we have that, we're used to seeing the same person mixing it in and out with whomever is the champion at the time. Sometimes it's tag matches. Sometimes it's a match if they're like a tag team, right, against solo matches with the other people or whatever it may be, to try and build that story towards whatever show that they're going to battle for the title at. So we're kind of used to that. And AEW is kind of turning that a little bit on its heel in some ways. Like, we know we have certain storylines that are going to go through. We have Jericho and Mox going on right now, and that's a thing. But the tag teams seem kind of tumultuous, and so does the women's division, which is a whole other conversation. But I think it's the ranking system is being utilized in some ways, but not in other ways, right? Jon Moxley is the number one contender, and he's staying the number one contender. And he's going to face Jericho at Revolution. But what happens if other people are winning? Does he move out of contention? Because that's what they're doing for the women. So I guess it's a little bit confusing with what they're saying and what's actually happening. I think maybe that's sort of where the issue lies for some people.
I guess my issue lies not specifically about the wins and loss record, but wrestling companies as a whole. They have an opportunity to set their rule set in their universe, and a lot of the times they break their rules just because they can.
WWE is notorious for that.
Oh, they're the
I'm
worst at
genius, the
that.
wild card.
Oh God, that phrase. Oh, it'll be too soon before I hear that again.
It's good shit, pal.
Yeah, it's good shit. Yeah, it's really yeah. Freak. Oh my, that cracked me up that evening. I'm a genius wild card. I'll never forget that.
Oh yeah.
Scarred
That
me in a
was
different way, Vince. The scars I bear over WWE, Vince. Oh my goodness.
Preach on it.
Oh my gosh. But I understand what you mean there too about the win and loss record too, of how it can be confusing. I think in my opinion, from where I could see people were confused, was AEW started in beginning of October. So we learned at the near the end of the year that the wins and losses were going to restart. However, they were going to keep their full on records. So like when they come out in 2020, you see their current record and then you see their total record. And people have speculated like, eventually that might be like 400 and 600 and, a bunch of just crazy numbers. You mentioned about the women's division too, about like Chris, the Alien and Ariho and Nyla Rose and all this stuff. And I'm not very happy with Nyla Rose going for that title again. She lost, and I just want somebody else to come into the fray. Like not even Chris Statlander, like maybe Hikaru Shida or something, but just something to make Riho and this women's title relevant, because they really, really haven't. And I thought they would be able to do that in spades, considering that they were able to just do everything else good, in my opinion, for the most part. Like, for instance, the long, slow heel turn of Adam Page. I quite like what they're doing with this.
I think that's the best thing they have going right now, to be honest with you, other than Jericho, who's freaking dynamite gold every time that he really does anything. He's like Midas. He touches it, turns to gold. He's fantastic. But I think in terms of their storylines, nothing is better right now than Adam Page. And the way that they've done this, it's like after he challenged for the title at All Out, I was so disenfranchised with him. I was like, okay, like I'm done with you. Like I just can't. He wasn't hitting right. Something was off in his personality. And I'm like, all right, we need a break. But the way that they were able to bring him back in slowly with this, and it has been building and building and getting better, and he is funnier and funnier every single week. The way that he is interacting with the Bucks and even with Kenny, just the little choices that they're making. Like last week, he came out before everybody else. Didn't even bother to wait. Like looked back and was like, forget it, I'm going. He goes, the other three are posing together. It's great storytelling. And it's going to get a payoff eventually. I just think that's the best thing they have right now. A lot of things that, there's good stuff, right? There's things storyline-wise that I think that could be better, or things that I think are solid, but nothing is better than that, I don't think.
What do you think about the Adam Page heel turn, Mort?
I'm here for it. I love how it's a slow simmer, and when it finally kicks off full gear, pun intended, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think it will be too. And to those who don't know, and if you don't watch Dark or Being the Elite, there is so many like tiny little pieces of background for this heel turn with Adam Page on Being the Elite, and I can't get over how like even like Being the Elite is like 10 to 20 minutes a show, and it's not like they have a little bit of canon stuff for the AEW Dynamite show, and I never used to watch it, and now I do watch it because I love all the little tiny things, and it's making this Adam Page turn even better. Have you guys been watching Being the Elite or anything like that?
I usually do. If I can, I try to catch it definitely before the Wednesday show, so at least I kind of get the feel. I think you get a full picture when you do it. Do you have to watch Dark and Being the Elite? No, I don't think you have to do that.
No, you don't have
But
to.
I think that if you do, you're right. It gives you a little bit of extra to make it a little even more exciting than it was before. It gives you a inside peek, an extra. It's like a bonus episode in a way, because they further it along just a little bit, and they give you something exciting to keep you invested and to make you watch on Wednesday to see what's going to happen, like what's going to happen based on that episode. What are they going to do next week? What are they going to do live on television, right? So it gives you a little bit more of an insider and more intimate perspective.
Yeah, you understand more jokes too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely not required, but it's definitely you're definitely rewarded as a fan if you watch it.
I agree.
So John Moxley, Chris Jericho, that feud's going great. The Adam Page slowly heel turn, or you know what? I actually even thought of this too. What if everybody else goes heel, and Adam Page actually goes face? That would be really funny.
Oh, I would be beyond thrilled to see Kenny Omega back as the cleaner,
Yeah,
or a version of the cleaner.
that would be left field though, right? Because everybody thinks Adam Page is going to go heel. But what if,
Yep.
AEW pulls a fast one and everybody else goes heel and he goes face because he's the one with the drinking problem and trying to get help, and I don't know. It could go either way. But one storyline, and I know we talked about the women's division a little, but I have to give them credit for Britt Baker's heel turn.
Oh boy.
Please tell me your opinion on it, because I absolutely loved it. And if you didn't, that's cool, but I loved it.
Man, I am very glad that they tried something else, because what they were trying was not working. Her as a baby face, just, it wasn't resonating with people. It felt awkward. She looked awkward. I don't know. It definitely wasn't right. I think the heel thing is better for her in that way. She's able to do a little more things that will get better reactions, in not better in like, well, they're booing her, but better as in the crowd's going to be a little more engaged, right, in what she's saying and booing her and doing that sort of thing. I just wish she was better in the ring to back that up.
That's a very, very fair point. I've kind of noticed that a lot about the women's division, that they're kind of they're good in the ring, but I think we've been spoiled by just how WWE has really elevated the women's division over the years. What about you, Mark?
I think there's a disconnect to how Britt wrestled in the Indies and how she's wrestling in front of our eyes on AEW on Wednesday nights. And I don't think she's fully comfortable with this heel character yet.
I think, too, the women's division, while we're on the topic, is like, they have a lot of amazing people. Riho's an enormously fun and very popular Joshi wrestler, as is Shida. She was kind of like a little secret Shida. For those of us who watched her in Japan, we were so excited, excuse me, for her, because her getting to kind of shine. I want to see it more. I think people would be even more impressed than they already are with her, the more that she gets to wrestle live in front of people. And Chris Statlander is one of the, in my opinion, had the best 2019 for women in the Indies, and actually just wrestlers in general in the Indies. She was on a complete roll, and I'm excited to see her in AEW. They have the tools. They're just not utilizing the tools, and I'm not really sure why that is exactly. But it is very frustrating, considering what they promised, everybody, and what we're not really getting. Plus, that title belt is way too small. Oh, God.
I was just thinking about how tiny that belt was.
It's like even too tiny for Riho, and she's the tiniest.
Yep.
I can't.
I'm sorry, that belt. When I first saw that, I was
Laughable.
like, teeny tiny belt for a teeny tiny woman.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But it's equal to the big championship.
Yeah. That thing is
Yeah.
massive.
It's so huge. It's so big. And I think that that's great. I love big titles. I don't have any problem with that. But like, why are you giving that to your women's champion? You're saying that you're going to have an, equality in your company and everything's going to be the same and you're going to treat it the same. They have not treated this women's division nearly as even close to what they're treating the men's division and the obviously the AEW championship. Those are your only two titles. And I feel like they're doing such a disservice to the women's one. I think it's a great shape. It's a cool color. I like the design. But times it by 3 and I think you'd be good.
I agree. They're not respecting the women's division as much as they're doing the men's, which is it's bluntly like you can see it a mile away. And after 6 months of being on TV, it's at this point we really should see some clear stars now.
I mean, we should be.
Yeah, the key word.
But
You said it, yeah.
When you get one women's match a week, what are we going to do with it?
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, I know there's a good amount of women matches on Dark, but even then, well, not everybody watches Dark. They need to be on the main shows.
Yep.
Yeah, like why aren't they on the main shows? Where's Shanna? Where's Sadie Gibbs?
Yes.
Where's Big Swole on my screen? Like I want to see them. The only way that they're going to get over with people, the only way that you're going to showcase your women's division is to put them on the card. We don't need, and as much as I love tag team wrestling, and trust me, I really, really do, we don't need 3 to 4 tag matches on your main show. You can take one off and put the women on more than once. It's really, or do some backstage segments. Do something. Do anything else than what's going on right now. It's so frustrating because I think, they're so new and they've got such a great vision and great people. And I love watching it because it's fresh and it's exciting. But this is like, oh, what a disappointment.
Yeah, I really can't argue with you there. I really can't. As a fan, I feel the same way. Who was the woman? And forgive me for forgetting her name. The one who faced Britt Baker and had the mouth full of blood.
Oh, Yuka Sakazaki?
Yes, I quite like her, and
She's fun,
very
huh?
nice. It was very nice to see her again from the summer because I know she was on one of the pay-per-views, but she never made it to TV yet. I was very, very happy to see her because I think she's got a future too, like in AEW, like going far.
Oh, I think so too. She's the magical girl for a reason. She's got a great look. The wrestling fashion that she wears, her gear is on point.
Yep.
She's bubbly and bright and vibrant and super talented in the ring and fun to watch. She's engaging. So I was excited to see her back too because we hadn't seen her since Double or Nothing. So
yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't remember which pay-per-view it was, but yeah, that's when it was. Okay. Now, before we I just want to get a couple of SmackDown questions for more, and I want to get a couple of questions for New Beginning off of you, Queen. But just before we jump into that, and we have about maybe 25 minutes or so left, I wanted to get your guys' opinion on the MJF lashes, because that I've heard a lot of different opinions, and I would love to hear you guys' opinions on it.
oh man. I think they got across what they wanted to get across. The reaction of Cody taking those hits, it was real and genuine, and people connect with that kind of stuff, right? It's real, and real recognizes real, and everybody in the audience and everybody at home and on Twitter, I think, could really buy into that because it was not fake, right? We hear that all the time. Wrestling's fake and things are fake. Okay, yeah. But getting hit with a belt, I think, is a little bit different, right? So I think that the emotion pushing him even further as the baby face of the company and pushing MJF even further into the heel as the company, I think that thing that they wanted to get across, they were successful in. Personally, made me very uncomfortable. I don't believe in that kind of punishment stuff. I know it's very old school wrestling, but I'm not really into that personally. And I also thought it was overbooked. Everybody came out. And like, I understand the connection, why his brother makes sense. His wife makes sense. But then his, Arn, manager, the Young Bucks, his friends, it was a lot going on. But I think the part that made it way too overbooked for me was the random heels standing at the top of the ramp. Not really sure what that was about. It just seemed very weird, but it's typical for Cody. No offense to the guy, but everything he does is overbooked. He's got like 10 different things going on in every single match he does. I don't know why that is. It just is. But yeah, personally made me feel very uncomfortable. So that was my thoughts.
For me, in a wrestling context, when was the last time that we saw lashes with a belt not immediately prior to the match happening? To me, it didn't make any sense to have him do the lashes, 2, 3, 4 weeks out from the match, and give Cody time to heal from them.
It's interesting that both of your opinions about it. One, I'm actually interested about when you say you're uncomfortable, Queen, are you uncomfortable in like a good heel way, or you just don't want to ever see that again?
Oh no, like uncomfortable, like I don't want to see it.
Okay.
And the other thing is like in the storyline, I agree with Mort. I don't really think it makes sense. I think they didn't need it. They could have gotten there without it, because now the next thing is a cage match for Wardlow, and he doesn't even really need to win that to face MJF. He just has to do it. So like for me, it was maybe why weren't they reversed? Or if you're gonna do it right before the match to weaken him, so MJF makes it easier, quote unquote, for him to win. So to Mort's point, it wrestling wise, it was weird, but uncomfortable. Like I can't watch that kind of stuff.
I do agree with Mort too. It was kind of out in left field almost, because even I know it's a 14A show and they're coming up with ways to make it, edgier and stuff and different from WWE. But I don't know. Like, even in a wrestling ring, no matter how much you hate somebody, my opinion on the segment was just they booked it as best as I think they probably could, in my opinion, just because when I first heard about it, I was like, damn, how are they going to book this and how am I going to stay interested? Because of course I'm going to watch it, but do I really want to see this? Because, as you said, Queen, it's uncomfortable. And they made it, interesting for me, and I certainly felt, and after seeing those pictures of the belt marks on Cody's back, I was like, Jesus, the things you do for work. But at the same time, if I had some sort of feud with somebody in real life or even in the wrestling biz, I would never, ever in my life agree to you whipping me 10 times just so I can have a match with you. You're not worth it. You're not worth my time. That's just it. I wouldn't put that much energy into it. So I don't know. Maybe that's taken some of the belief out of wrestling, but I don't think as a whole we need to see something like that again.
Yeah, I could be with that.
I think you brought it up on our show there, Queen, that those types of things are usually reserved for blood feuds. Does this feud feel like a blood feud and warrant lashes? Not to me.
No.
Yeah. And what was so bad that happened? Okay, he betrayed him. Okay, well, what else has he really, quote unquote, done, right, to fuel this to that level? The reason he's taking those lashes is because MJF said, I won't fight you unless you do all the things that I tell you to do. And Cody was like, all right, I'll do whatever I got to do to fight you. Like, what? But why? Why? Because he turned his back on you? So is everyone else in wrestling, dude. Like, what's going on? Like, it doesn't seem to me like it's like, he didn't go after your family, really. He didn't do anything super crazy. Yeah, he attacked Dustin, but all right. Well, every heel does that, and he says stuff to Brandy. Okay, but it wasn't like, I don't know, some deep, dark.
It wasn't Randy Orton kissing Stephanie McMahon passed out cold.
Sure, there it is. Yeah, it wasn't like, I need to take you to the ground and make sure you don't get up. Feud, I guess, is where I'm at.
However, though, he did MJF screwed Cody out of ever having an AEW world title match ever again.
I don't know if I believe that.
In the story currently.
Sure. In the story currently. But for me, it's like, yeah, but they could find thousands of ways out of that. And, that's like probably a WWE training, right? Because we're always like, oh, this will never happen again. Psych. So it's probably a little bit of that. But to me, okay, he screwed him, but like, really? I don't know.
I'm probably going to call it. Actually, you know what? I'm not probably about it. I'm going to call it right now. If AEW ever gets a mid card for the men's, Cody's probably going to be the first reign, just because of what happened with the world title.
Yeah, probably.
Wouldn't be surprised.
And he'll hold that for a long time, because that's where he'll do. He'll probably be like the center of the mid card.
Which is fine. I think that's a good thing. They say that they want new people, moving in and out of main event spots and main event storylines and pictures. I'd love to see that sometime soon. I know why they put Jericho, right? I think we all do. And I think that's great, and it's working for them. And that's great for the legitimacy, right, of a championship. But new people, I'd love it.
I've got a question for Mort on SmackDown, because I'm very curious about this answer. What do you think about Goldberg versus The Fiend going to Super Showdown?
The Fiend needs to just BTFO Goldberg.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Please explain.
Okay, The Fiend didn't need the title when he won it from Seth. That's past. We suck it up and deal. Now, you at this point, this close to WrestleMania, you cannot take the title away from The Fiend, or you outright kill him at this point. especially for freaking Bill Goldberg. Really? Just so you can have Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. Fine, have your Roman Reigns Goldberg match, but that match does not need the title.
I don't like when part-timers, doesn't matter who they are, unless it makes sense in a story, like an actual legit, there's beef there, there's history, there's something to make it a reason. But I hate when part-timers randomly come in and take something from a full-timer.
Mm-hmm.
It drives me crazy. I don't care if it's The Rock. I don't care if it's John Cena. I don't care if it's CM Punk. I don't care who it is. If you're a part-timer and you're taking away from a full-timer, that's what pushes the business down. Part-timers are there to help come back in and push the full talent up to make that roster better, like more full.
Right.
And Goldberg coming back and just getting into a random feud with the Fiend, and now Bray Wyatt goes on Twitter and says, I got this tattoo because of you, and that's like, come on, there's nothing there. Just, if I'm all for watching them wrestle, like booking wise, the Fiend, Goldberg just have a spectacular thing, whatever, in Super Showdown, move on. I even thought about John Cena coming back and challenging the Fiend. The only reason I'd be okay with that is because if he beat him, 1, John Cena has never become the Universal title. 2, it would be his 17th title run, which would cement the story. And 3, they do have a history. So that's the only reason why I'd be okay with John Cena being involved, because he's a part-timer, but I don't want to be a hypocrite about it.
My other issue is during Goldberg's promo, he mentioned that he never got a rematch for his title loss. Well, pretty sure Kevin Owens didn't get a title rematch, Mr. Goldberg. And back in January 2019, all of the McMahons came out in the middle of the ring and flat out said people weren't getting automatic rematches. So shut up, Goldberg.
I thought the same thing when I was watching that. I really, really did. I was like, what are you talking about? There's no rematches. You don't just come in here and say, well, I didn't get a rematch, so I get a title shot.
I get so much shit on Twitter for bringing that up.
No, you're right, though. That's what they said. Like, what?
And that's part of why I went off a little while ago. Again, you set your own rules. Follow the rules that you set.
Yep. That's what I appreciate, too. Like, when like, even... I'm all like, Angel Garza is technically NXT, and I know he's on there with Zelina Vega right now to fill in Andrade, but Angel Garza is NXT, so just keep him in NXT. Like, I get the Rhea Ripley and Charlotte thing because that makes sense for story, but doesn't need to cross over. NXT doesn't need to be on Raw. Period. Like, like it's the little things. Just stick to your rules.
What happened to our exclusive rosters?
Yes, exactly, and that was killed within a week. Or a few weeks or something like that. I'm glad to know, though, that there are other people out there that just understand where I'm coming from when I don't like part-timers taking away from full-timers. I don't understand why they keep going back to that well and abusing it.
Because money.
Well, yeah, I suppose people are sellouts, aren't they? Oh, my. Well, thank you for answering that for me, Mort.
Absolutely.
And I know we have about 10 minutes left, so I definitely want to ask Queen this question about New Beginning.
Oh, yes.
I really, really enjoyed New Beginning. It was my first time catching it. I've just slowly started getting into New Japan in the last couple of years.
Awesome.
Yeah, I watched the G1 for the first time ever last year.
Oh, what a great one to start.
Oh, it was, man. It was amazing. It was just Kota Ibushi winning that and going all the way, and just I watched, I think, almost all of it except for like 2 B block days.
Good for you.
The A block was my favorite, I think.
Yeah, same.
But I walked away with a lot of favorites. Like, I became a huge fan of Lance Archer. That was just that was just one person just that instantly comes to mind from that G1 was Lance Archer. And then is it Taichi was in there, wasn't he?
Yeah, Taichi, yeah.
He cracks me up. He cracks me up with it coming out, him singing his theme song and everything. It's so dramatic. He just cracks me up. He's got it works. Whatever he's doing, it works, and I like it.
Okay.
Became more of a fan of Jay White. But my question for you, though, for New Beginning was, out of all the matches, though, what was your match of the night?
Oh my goodness. See, this is tough. This is tough for me. Oh man, probably. I think just because of the anticipation, we had to wait 582 days to see Hiromu Takahashi versus Ryu Lee. We know him more as Dragon Lee. Um, Geez, I mean, Ryu Lee is the one to put Hiromu out, like broken, literally. And they came back, and if you thought that these two were going to take it easy due to injury or fear, you were 100% wrong. This was full throttle, absolute craziness between these two, and it was the second longest match on the card, and did not disappoint in any way. And I think if you like, Murder Grandpa, then you have to like him versus Mox. So that was a lot of fun as well. I think the main event was great, but I have some thoughts on that.
All right. Well, but before I get your thoughts on the main event, I agree. By the way,
Oh, good.
oh, good. Yes.
Cool. Like that. I love that.
I never knew anything about the history between them. Because I never watched it. I just heard from people, that this is what happened to Dragon Lee, and this is what Hiromu and all this stuff. Like this is their history. And I've heard that they fought a bunch of times, and I've learned that they're rivals and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm really gonna enjoy this match. I enjoyed seeing Hiromu at Wrestle Kingdom. That was really cool. I was like, who is this guy? And he's new,
Yeah.
or he's not new, but he came back from an injury, so I'm starting to get to know him, and for the first time. And I watched that match with them, and I was like, oh my gosh, when they were going back and forth and slapping each other's chest. Oh, it was just so good. They have such good chemistry, and I loved the match. Besides that match, it was a close second with Moxley and Suzuki.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not love that? It's all out chaos. It's so much fun.
I just love the reactions. They kept laughing at each other and acting crazy, and it was beautiful. Like those two matches, I think I got the most fun out of. But please tell me your opinions about the main event.
Oh man, this is Naito's story, man. He can't even get one good thing, as our friends at Heels, Pops, and Chair Shots would say. No nice things. And poor Naito finally wins both. He wins both belts. Not even just finally wins the heavyweight belt, but he again after this 7-year-long tumultuous craziness. But Kenta ruins it. It's just typical Naito booking. So we finally get this match between them, and I actually thought it was really, really slow at the beginning. I thought there was way too much of Kenta on the outside. I didn't really care for the interference, though I understand why. But really that second half, once Jay White and Hiromu and Bushi, who came out as well to help Naito because Jay White was acting a fool, as he always does, which is amazing. I love him so much. But anyway,
he's absolutely fantastic.
He's the best. But anyway, so once they go, I felt like that match really picked up. But for me, it was the blood that took it to that next level. When he cut himself open, it was a whole red mass situation going on here. And it elevated the seriousness of this competition between them two. And it just kind of kicked it into high gear for me. And it made you think just for a second, maybe Kenta really does have a shot here. And that's what I like about New Japan. Sometimes they're slam dunks and you just know, but then Gato likes to mess with you. And you just are like, well, is he going to retain? Is he going to lose? Wait a minute. So that's the beauty of New Japan. You never quite know what's going to happen.
I've noticed that as well. Like with New Japan, and their matches go on for that decent amount of time, and both people get a good amount of offense in, where you're like, oh, this person's pretty good. Oh, well, this person's pretty good too. Who's gonna win?
Yeah, it's nice to see that in your championship match, huh?
It really is. Like before we go off, and this is what I'm scared of, and you just reminded me of it. It's great to see when a champion does that, when a championship match does that. And that's why I'm terrified right now. I'm all for Ricochet versus Brock Lesnar at Super Showdown. But I am so terrified that match is going to start with, an end in 10 seconds.
Well, Mort, you shared something interesting with us, right? About this match?
I think my issue with it is nobody really believes, as much as we love Ricochet, we don't believe he's going to beat Brock Lesnar this close to WrestleMania.
Mm.
Yeah. I
Or
you're
was that
right.
not? Or was that not it, there, Queen?
That was part of it, but didn't we see something online? Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I thought it was in our group chat. We were talking about it, that he may end up winning in a total shocker.
Oh yeah.
So
that's
we
right.
don't get Drew and Brock at Mania because they don't want Brock to lose at Mania. Didn't we talk about that? Or I could be crazy.
No, that's right. There was that article in our group. I forgot about that real quick. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
please,
there was
please do. Yeah, please tell me all about it. I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, so there was this article and these rumors going around that, they could pull an upset, like surprise victory for Ricochet here. And it would be Ricochet and Drew at Mania instead of Brock Drew at Mania because they didn't want him to lose at Mania, which I thought was interesting. But he did lose to Seth Rollins. So, I don't know how much I'm putting behind that, but I thought it was kind of interesting that what if we did get that swerve? Do you think they would do that? I don't really know. It would be interesting, but I'm not sure that I could see them having Brock lose in the pay-per-view that must not be named. So, in the place that I don't like.
Yes. I agree.
Because how much box office would they lose if they don't have Lesnar on that card?
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I don't know. But it's just an interesting thought, right? Typically, Brock has his best matches, at least in my opinion, with smaller wrestlers who aren't big, beefy guys. It just kind of works for him. He likes it better, supposedly. That's what he's, been rumored to say. And he wants to work with smaller guys because it gives him, more to do in that way. I hope it's not going to be a squash for Ricochet, but I could totally see it going that way, like you had mentioned.
You have definitely, we've come to pretty close to the end of the podcast, and you have definitely left the podcast with a very lingering question, which I absolutely love because that gives all the listeners, even myself included, just time to think about that Brock Lesnar possible swerve. Because that's
you never know.
you never freaking know, right? You never freaking know. Oh man, now. Would you want it to happen?
I'm kind of invested in the Brock Drew thing. I like that. I think that's a fun Mania thing. Ricochet kind of came in. I mean, at least it's continuity, right? That's what Morton Pops and I talk about a lot. Is sometimes the lack of continuity in WWE. But they played off that Brock Lesnar Ricochet thing, and they ran with that. So we put him in that match. He won the number one contender spot, and now he's going to face Brock at that pay-per-view. And do I want it? I don't know. Do I want to see Ricochet with a belt? Yes. But would I prefer to see him with a belt that means something? Also, yes.
What about you, Mark?
But pretty much the same as Queen. And the thing is, if we do give it to Ricochet now, is he just going to be a transitional champion for Drew?
That's a good question as well.
And if he's only going to be a transitional champion from Brock to Drew, just have Drew beat Brock. It does more for Drew.
Then we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do when it comes to the Elimination Chamber? Are we going to defend the belt inside the chamber, or are we going to make another number one contender? So,
yeah, that's a great question. I guess we'll find out.
We will find out in the next month.
Or is that number one contendership the person that goes after the winner of The Fiend and Goldberg?
They could do a half Raw, half SmackDown as well.
Good call.
Well, who knows? We have a lot of questions in the air. And with that, we'll definitely wrap things up. Thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having us.
Now, I know you guys have lots of social media there, so please share whatever you need to share.
Mark, go for it.
The main show account is at DYWT B. I'm at Mortheus, Mortheous. Pops is at DYWT B Pops.
And you can find me on Twitter at the Queen of NE. And of course, you can hear our show every single Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday, and Thursday. Is that right? Did I get it right?
Yep.
There's so many things happening. Please give the show a follow. Give us a follow if you like what you hear. And, thank you again for having us on.
And thank you for making the time, Your Highness.
Oh, my pleasure.
You can, as always, you can find me on SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us up on YouTube. Please help me get to 100 subscribers so YouTube will allow me to have a custom URL because they're just that anal. So with all that, this has been LMP Wrestling, and we're signing off.